What's up, everybody? I'm Jesse Showalter, and so many of you have reached out asking about design feedback. Where do you go to get design feedback? How do you give constructive criticism? And how do you take critique of your work without getting your feelings hurt? So in this video, we're going to talk about all of that and more coming up next. All right, first up, let's talk about giving and receiving constructive criticism and feedback. There's a few do's and don'ts that apply to both of them, and then there's some specific things that we'll call out for each of them. First up, let's talk about giving constructive criticism. I think the first thing you always want to think about is asking questions. A lot of times we're so apt just to give our advice, our point of view, but stopping and asking questions will help us understand why they made the choices they did, and therefore make our advice so much more impactful and potent as we're giving it. So don't rush right to the answer, ask the question first. The next thing I would say is your delivery of your feedback. Some people would use the compliment sandwich, which is start with something good, kind of get to the meat or the main issue you see in the design, and then follow it up with something encouraging that maybe you liked about the design. If you can see nothing good about the design, at least compliment their direction or compliment the way they went about it, or even their desire to take on such a hard challenge, right? So there's always something you can say. If you can't say anything, I'm not saying make things up, but what I am saying is compliment their progression and the work that they've put in. So there's always something there to compliment, I think. Next up, you want to really think about your critique before you give it. So don't be really long-winded, but really spend that time thinking first, and then try to give your feedback in as much of a succinct way as you possibly can. So instead of drawing out this long explanation, pick out the few things you feel like could be improved. Figure out how you want to verbalize them to be the most clear, and then say them one by one. And if there's connections between the two or three, draw your connections, and then again, exit out of your feedback or your critique with something positive, encouraging. So I think that's a really good way. Is be succinct, think about what you're going to say, ask lots of questions, and then be patient and gracious as you're giving them these comments. That's kind of my opinion for giving feedback. When it comes to receiving feedback, there's some similarities to giving feedback. Be patient, be gracious, be clear and succinct about the goals and what you're trying to accomplish as you are the creator of this project. So let them know up front. Don't give them a massive design brief, but maybe give them a general overview. Hey, I was trying to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I had this much time to do it. It's this type of demographic or core user that we're looking at. What do you think? Give me all the feedback you can. So that's the first thing, is be really clear about what the project is. Give them some context, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Next thing, give them permission to feedback as much as they possibly can. It's better when you are the person asking for feedback just to give them complete carte blanche, complete freedom to say whatever comes to their mind. I think it's okay also to ask them to be really direct, but also to be really specific about things. So, hey, do me a favor, be really, really intentional. Don't be vague. Really drill down on the individual elements that you think could improve this piece of work. So that's, I think, a good way to come out of the gate is welcoming. I think another thing is be really encouraging to the person you're asking to give feedback. It can be hard to give critique and feedback. I think a lot of people want to be really nice and they want to be supportive, and they don't know how to be, critical without it coming across as mean to them. So by you welcoming them and saying, it's okay, I want you to find 5 to 10 things wrong with this thing, you're giving them the permission they need to be honest and constructive. Last thing is, even when we want them to be honest and constructive, that's our brain saying it, sometimes it can be hard for our hearts because they don't know all the work we've put in or the short timeline or deadline that we had. To hold back all of that. Hold back all of your comments till the very end. So start out with your brief. We were trying to accomplish X, Y, and Z. Here's what I was trying to do. Here's a few details. Go. Give me all that you can give me. When they give it to you, just take notes and say, and what else? Just ask them for more. Keep them going, and don't challenge back. Oh, well, I was trying to, you don't understand because don't do that. Just take it all in and say thank you at the end. If you feel like you want to bring up anything at the end, say, hey, here's a couple things I had about your feedback. What do you think about this? What if I was to tell you that I did try to accomplish that there, or the client maybe said they didn't want that, and then hear their feedback. But really, getting feedback should be like user research. Like, you don't ask a user to test a prototype and then tell them how they did it wrong. You watch them fumble and bumble and realize that maybe you did it wrong and you could improve it. Otherwise, why are you asking for feedback, right? Well, that's pretty much all I have for how to give and receive constructive criticism. Now, I guess the only question is, where do you go to find and have all this happen? Well, there's a few places, and let's start with the most obvious, which would be design communities like Dribbble or Behance. I think these are obvious places to go because they're all about posting your work with comment section below them. They're built to receive feedback. I think a few tips when you do a Dribbble or a Behance kind of thing is make sure in the comments, if you want feedback, ask for it directly. Give them permission. Say, this is a work in progress. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then take those and those links, the shareable links of that, and post them in other places like your social media. So that's, I think, a great place to go because they're designed to basically be places to get and give feedback. I think my second thing about everything I'm going to say here with online stuff is be not only somebody who's posting and asking for feedback, but somebody who's willing to spend the time and give feedback. Don't be selfish. Don't just go there for your needs, but be willing to enter into these communities and places and spaces and help other people with their needs. It's going to be reciprocated, guaranteed. So we've covered Behance and we've covered Dribbble, and I kind of mentioned social media, but those are other places as well. You want to post on Twitter, you want to post your work on Instagram, which is a visual platform. Ask again for feedback, and then also be willing to spend the time. Next place online to find some feedback or give feedback would be any Slack design community. There's lots of those popping up, and they're super helpful. And again, like, they not only are a place for you to post work and receive feedback, but give feedback, but also find people who are interested in the same things you are, maybe upcoming events. So they're an all-around kind of like design community space, and sharing and giving feedback and getting feedback on work is just one aspect of it. But I think they're a great place. The one that jumps to mind right now is the Designership. I like being in that one, but there's a bunch of them. So just look up design Slack communities and you'll find a bunch that maybe you'll enjoy. Last one, and maybe it's unexpected, but before you go online and look and try to be a part of all these things, sometimes just going to friends and family, it can be a really beneficial way to get feedback on your design. But you're saying, Jesse, they're not designers, they don't understand. Yeah, but you're not usually designing things for other designers. Sometimes it's great to get feedback from people who don't know how to verbalize why your layout isn't working, but they're just kind of saying something feels funky, something feels right. My attention is attracted to this, or that color feels overbearing to me. And again, they can't use design speak and terminology, but they can let you know that something feels off and give their best kind of constructive criticism. The only thing I would say is a lot of his friends and family, they really love you and they want to be really supportive. So you have to really give them the invitation and the okay to be constructive and pick things apart a little bit. They're your friends and family. Be awesome with them, love them, because they're more important than, the work that you're posting. So those are pretty much the places I would say to go to find feedback, to give feedback, and a few tips and tricks on how to, that's pretty much it. Well, that's it for the video. Now you know how to give feedback, receive feedback, and where to go to find all of that feedback community. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I do lots of stuff about design and development and stuff just like this one, so maybe stick around. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll put some helpful links down in the description as well. I hope you guys are having an amazing week designing amazing things, making amazing things, and being gentle when you give feedback. I'll see you in the next one.